I don't got much time on this battery, so there are 3 scenarios I need to talk to you about that the Lord has shown me through a lot of the people that I listened to confirm that of what I saw in this film. Number one, scenario one. I was about to go into this in the previous video. They were sitting at the bar, and the woman literally was the bartender was flirting with the young man while she was sitting there. And he showed that he was in interest in only her by leaning over and kissing her. For some of you, your God ordained spouses are, because they're older, when people see them with you, they might even perceive it's like, are you their child or something? Oh, that's your daughter? Or somebody? Your sister, cousin, somebody, but not your girl. You need to be aware of that. Same thing vice versa for you as the female. They may look at you and be like, oh, you his mama. You his auntie. There ain't no way that you his girlfriend. Or his wife. And in some cases, because of that, some of these women will boldly disrespect you to your face because they're like, ain't no way. She the one. And you're going to have to stand there in all of your godly essence. And it's a test to you of what you're going to say and what you're going to do. Because they're going to test your patience. Because they're going to try your man. And vice versa, they're going to try you in front of this young man. That's scenario number one. Don't think these Jezebels going to disappear. Especially depending on what career field your God ordained spouse is in. Oh, I remember seeing an interview with Denzel Washington and his wife Pauletta was talking about, oh, women will walk right up to him and act straight foolish, and I had to stand there. And she was like, I was standing there in some of the cases I was pregnant, standing right next to him, and they tried him in front of me while I'm 6 months pregnant. And you know, as a female, if you on your time of a month and somebody try you, if you got one of them mouths, that's scenario number one. Number two, because these marriages need to take place quickly, there was a situation where Winston took her directly to his parents' house. For some of you, you're the younger woman, and he's going to take you to his parents' house. Because God needs these relationships to happen exponentially, quickly, expediently, fast. I remember servant of God was talking about having had a dream that she was invited to her God ordained spouse's parents' house by his father, and she literally met him and they were going. Not once, but twice. Some of y'all, because of how fast y'all wedding gonna happen, your God ordained spouse gonna take you to his parents' house, and vice versa. You're gonna take them to your parents' house quicker than you would have normally done it in any other relationship. Only by the wisdom and the leading of God, because remember, when you introduce them to these individuals, you're opening them up to certain types of verbal warfare, all of this kind of stuff to come towards and against. So some of you, the Lord may marry you first before you go to visit these people. Y'all might just elope and then have your ceremonial wedding amongst your family when the Lord allows for y'all to meet. But he's got to go into your family and deal with them, and vice versa. But what's her name? Trust and Obey Obedience Ministries. Trust, Obey, and Imagine Ministries did a video where she talks about be careful. I'm put the warning that she said in there. I'm going to just say it. Be careful of your God-ordained spouse and siblings. Vice versa. They going to have to be careful of yours. I got 2 brothers. Okay? And a grown nephew. So, I know the types of things that they do when it comes down to they're drinkers, and you know when people drinking, they loose lipped. So you pray against that because they might try to get them caught up in a situation where they get them, you know, drunk. If they get them alone. Anyway, vice versa, you got to be aware when you go into their family's unit, because the siblings, just because they got sisters and all that, y'all females and these women, they want to know stuff. And you know, as a woman, you want to know stuff. So they're going to be all up in your face if you come into the family, especially the mama and all that. The mama came to her and was like, look, we both women, because the mama was her age and was like, look, we the same age, so I don't need to play around with you. And she told her how she felt. And because after she told her that, she stepped outside and she was like, how dare you even bring me to your mama's house? Let me explain something to you. God's going to tell you what, when, and how that's supposed to occur. You're going to have to allow these people to feel how they feel. God's going to deal with them. If he orchestrated that you need to be there, then he will orchestrate that you need to be there. If he don't, then you will not come into contact with those people. But when you do, you're going to have to use the spiritual wisdom that God gave you in your season of isolation on how you deal with these individuals. If you got to sit there and pray in tongues, sit there and pray in tongues. If you got to sit there, whatever it is that you got to do in order to keep your peace in that moment, because they very well may try you. Sit in that. Because even the older man may have a close relationship to his mama. And you know that is going to be a difficult one. I did the word rebuke the mama. Because some of y'all's God-ordained husbands got a mama from hell that is not going to like you when you come into this picture. But it is God's business to deal with that individual, not yours. The only thing that you're supposed to do is pray for them. Pray for their heart, their mind, their body, and their spirit. What God decides to do to them and for them is up to him, not you. But you pray no harm against this individual. And what he chooses to do is on him. Meaning what God chooses, you can pray mercy, you can pray grace, you can pray what have you. And let me tell you something, since I'm here talking about the rebuking of the mother. A lot of people are going to, if they go and watch the word that I talked about of rebuking the mother, you're going to feel offended. I know you're going to feel offended. I felt offended even releasing it, okay? Because I know how people are about their mama. And if I was releasing it about my own mama, I'd have been like, Jesus, what are we talking about here? But I guess the Lord knew that I would be willing to release a word like that where some may not. God be giving me strong words. I say, yes, Lord, and I obey. Because some of these women need to be rebuked. Okay? Because they were the Rebeccas. They were the Sarahs. They were those types. And they need to be dealt with for their position in what they did to their sons. Moving forward, the next scenario, they come back in town because they having a family barbecue. Everybody's waiting. Everybody wants to see who this dude is. And it's going to be the same thing. If your God-ordained spouse kept you away from your family, I know you've seen Jumping the Broom. If he kept you, they gonna find a way to be waiting for you. It's like she needed to drop something off at her sister's. So she got her sister's house. Everybody and their mama was at that house. If your daughter date spouse kept you away, if he could avoid bringing you in contact, because he knows the type of people these individuals are, but he ends up in the scenario where he has to bring you in contact with them, understand, you better pray, and you together better pray before you walk up in there, because there's every kind of demon is in there. Just waiting to attack, bring about doubt, fear, confusion, frustration. And if they could, by the time y'all leave that space, y'all be arguing. Ask me how I know. I had that problem when I was in my previous relationship. I did. Next. She was enjoying the party. They had the cookout. They were sitting there eating. And then, who there? Her ex-husband. What the heck is he doing there? Now, the kid, her son, is like happy to see his daddy and all that, but she is not impressed at the fact that he's even there. Understand something. If your exes, not your ex, if your God-ordained spouse's mama liked the ex more than they liked you, be forewarned that there might come a point in time that if that woman don't like you, she might call the ex to show up at a gathering specifically to throw it in your face. Could be a sister, could be a brother, could be that they show up while you're there. I don't know what the situation or scenario may be. And your God-ordained spouse might not tell you initially because he don't want no drama. Either from them or because he doesn't know how you gonna react. So he might not tell you, but he gonna be standing there looking like somebody done slapped him in the face, because he trying to figure out, how am I supposed to deal with her and her in the same space? I don't know how this one's gonna act with that one, and oh Lord. And same thing for you females. If you're an older woman, maybe you got kids, whatever the scenario is, you concerned about their macho. There's a word I was thinking of, but I can't say it as a Christian. You know how men do. Competitive contest against one another. And you know it. And then if you say it to your new guy, and he's looking at him, and then the old guy's looking at him, and then you sitting up there like, Jesus be offensive. And drunk. Now did they go back to Jamaica again? I can't remember. But it was a situation where she was on vacation. I think they were still in the vacation location. And yeah, before she left, that was the reason why she left. She got the call about her friend. Her friend was sick. The friend that she came there with. For some of you, your God-ordained spouses had a loss. This brings in Isaac and Rebecca's scenario. I was listening to Sunray Speaks the other day, and she put it very eloquently that in some situations that your God-ordained spouse has lost somebody, mother, friend, father, whoever it is. I know what the case is for my God-ordained spouse. And you're coming in as a state of comfort. He went back with her, or he showed up at her friend's funeral after she passed. Because she left to go visit her before she passed away. And then he showed up at the funeral. And that's how they ended up at the cookout later that day. Then he brought his stuff to stay at the house. For my older females, and this is something a lot of the God-ordained kingdom wives may be doing, your God ordained spouse, for the younger man, they may be moving in with you. For us, because of the way the Lord has orchestrated it for us as the younger female, we're going to be moving in with them because they already have the place established for us, or we're going to the place that will be established as our location. But I believe the Lord has sent them ahead to prepare the place for us. Next, the son ends up showing Winston one of her workrooms. There are certain things that you have not had the ability, and vice versa, they have not had the ability to really cater to as creative outlets for themselves. And because you just simply didn't have the space for it. Where you were, you didn't have the space for it. You've been moving around. But somebody, or even yourself, is going to let them know these were the things that I loved to do, but I never had a space for it. I was a fashion designer. I never had the space to really have the table and work on my designs like I would like to, but I have designs everywhere. Or you're a music person and you haven't been able to really put your hands to the music the way that you wanted to. Or you're, I don't know, an artist and you like to paint, but you haven't had the room that you could literally put your paint stuff where you need it to be. So you haven't had that creative enlarged space that you could really stretch out and be creative. Winston comes in and finds that out from the son, and he sets it up for her. You, vice versa, have been, if God showed you who they are and what their creative loves are, you've been previously thinking in your mind, probably even created Pinterest boards of like, oh, I'm going to create a room that's going to be specific for them to have this, and if they have like this kind of thing, I want them to have that kind of area and all of that, because I want them to have their space in the house that they be able to do with it, and I can see how it would look, and just that, because you creative like that, and you want them to have that, they man cave, and it be they man cave, but the creative space too. And because you think like that. Okay? And what? It's the last part. Winston proposed to her. Your God-ordained spouse. Look, and the bell's ringing. Your God-ordained spouse is going to propose to you. Whether he does it when you first meet because he knows, because God has shown him, and he takes you on a date and he lets you know his intentions and thereby puts a ring on it, and then you go through the courtship process. Or some of them, depending on what kind of relationship you already previously had, they might just put the ring on it and y'all go do and take care of it, elope, that's it. And then you have the wedding later, and that 3-4 months being prepped for the wedding, all this kind of stuff starts happening. But then after that occurred, it's almost like a level of frustration came in her spirit. And this may also happen with you and your God-ordained spouse. That they're going to start to notice and nitpick, potentially. She was nitpicking about, how come you don't do this? How can you put your clothes here? How come you did living with you and this and that? It's like, you don't pay. It's like, I always got to pay for that. That was because her sisters done gotten her ear. For them, it may be their guy friends. It may be their family that gets in their ear about you. And then there's certain things that you do in a form of relaxation that might tick them off. But some it tick them off. Sometimes it's cute. But when they angry or they're trying to nitpick on something, they might nitpick on that thing, which normally wouldn't bother them, and the only reason it's bothering them is because other people are telling them that it should. You understand what I'm saying? So they had gone to dinner, and she was making a whole big issue about all that kind of stuff. You remember that scene? And he came to her. He said, "You don't have to this, that, and the other." And he went and pulled all the money out, and he put it in for the bill. and he told her off. But then later, afterwards, they laying in bed, and he says, I have something I want to show you. And he shows her the room. They will prepare a place for you. They will create the place for your creativity to flourish, and vice versa. They will nurture your creativity where others have not. They will develop your creativity where others have not. And you will support them in what they decide to do in their life, career path, or change of career. So, and the last scene I wanted to go over was when she went to the movies with him. He took her to the movies to this film that to most people it would be an immature content type film for her to go to be taken, or her to go see with him. I was like, oh, this is the movie immature. Like, ooh. And then all of her friends, it's like her sister show up with her political husband, and then she got the other two friends there. So she's standing there, and it's like, oh, you went to the movies to see that, assuming that they went to the movie that they went to. And it's like, no, we went over there and we saw that movie. That was hilarious. And they're like, oh, really? People are going to judge you for what you do. But it's going to be one of those scenarios. You're going to want to enjoy each other's company. He's going to introduce you to the things that he thinks is fun and funny. And you're going to introduce him to things that you think are fun and funny. And it's going to expand his view. But others may want him to stay in the box. Or others may want you to stay in the box. So if they see you there, they might be like, what are you doing? Oh, really? That's what you're doing? All it is a level of adjustment. I saw the film Something New, and the same thing happens because it was similar situations, but it was an interracial relationship. People don't understand the dynamic of the age difference between the two of you, and they're going to judge that. But you have to have the spiritual maturity to understand that they will judge that and be able to handle that spiritual immaturity being there and act accordingly. Because you're not going to allow, remember, deliver you from the opinions of men. Pray that prayer over you in your relationship. And understand when you pray it, that means people going to try to have all their opinions all up in your face because of the fact that they're going to want to be judged you and your relationship and what's going on between you and that individual, because he's older, you younger, you older, he younger, so on and so forth. And you let other people's opinions get between the two of y'all, you ain't going to do well. It has to be between you and them. A marriage is between you and them, not you, them, they, family, and yours, and friends. No, it's between you and them. And you're going to have to keep that level secure. You're going to have to keep it between the two of you. Because the more people you allow to have their voice in your relationship, if they are not a prayer partner, they are not a person that has wisdom for y'all, no. You got to pray about the people that even speaking into your lives, because they can speak confusion into your life. Know that is a trusted resource, even if it's the pastor, because some pastors, they don't agree with stuff either, especially at the speed that the Lord is trying to take y'all, and maybe halting and hindering. Let me tell you something. There was a relationship that I observed when I was in New York. It was a young woman. She was preparing to get married. And they knew that they were supposed to be getting married. The young man that she was engaged to, they were ready. Everything was coming together. Her mama's brother had his birthday on the same day as their wedding. Meaning they planned his birthday party on the same day as their wedding. And then everybody was upset because they were like, oh, you got to push your wedding date back. If God didn't tell you to push your wedding date back, you do not push your wedding day back. Why? Because that is an open door for the enemy to breed in confusion. What kind of confusion? Let me tell you what happened. That man ended up in a situation where he had, I don't know whether it was an accident or he had an issue happen with his leg. And he was sequestered to a wheelchair. And whatever happened, it was going to be a long-term thing. Meaning, I don't think that it was permanent, but it would have been a long-term healing process. And when that happened, and this happened after the date in which they were supposed to get married. This may not have happened had they gotten married on the date they were supposed to. Then this other guy shows up. Cutie with the nice looking. She starts hanging out with him. She starts giggling with him. She starts all this stuff with him. Then she starts hanging over at his house. Then she goes over there and spends the night at his house. You see where this is going?